Welcome back, everyone. Next up, we have Silver Bullet Mines. It trades on the OTC pink sheets under the symbol SBMCF and on the TSX under the symbol SBMI, and currently owns a gravity mill near Globe, Arizona, and recently disclosed it had found significant levels of palladium, platinum, rhodium, osmium, and gold in its concentrate. The company also recently announced a second round of assay results proving up the palladium, platinum, rhodium, osmium, and high-grade gold in representative mineralized material from its Buckeye Silver Mine near Globe, Arizona. Please welcome its VP of Capital Markets and Director, Peter Clausi. Welcome, Peter. How you doing today?
Always nice to see you.
Great to see you. Please tell us what's going on and give us some updates.
Okay, so as you know, I don't like having PowerPoints while I'm talking, and our PowerPoint is grossly out of date, even over the past 2 weeks, given what's happening. So the first key point to make is our mill is in production. We're not looking for a vein offshoot. I'm not looking for the edge of a porphyry. We are in production. So here's the backstory. The first time I was here, I told your nice audience that we'd be in production in 2022. And some of the crowd went, yeah, right. We've heard this story before. We had the mill built by June of 2022. We ran low-grade material through the mill just to get everything working. The belts and the concentrators and the crushers, they all need to be fine-tuned. You don't want to be running high-grade material for that, because then you're dumping all the value in the tailings. Once we had the mill was working perfectly, we moved up to the higher grade material. We received an order for silver doré bars. Fantastic. That's what we're in the business of doing. We tried to pour that doré, and here's where it got really interesting. If you saw the press release, Anna, you saw that the doré bars, instead of being that nice oblong shape, were black and crankled and misshapen. And a member of our field team said that's because there's an element in there that smelts at a higher temperature than gold and silver. Gold and silver smelts around 1800 degrees Fahrenheit. We didn't know what this other thing was. So we sent it out to an independent lab for a broad spectrum analysis. And this is where it got really interesting. Palladium, platinum, rhodium, osmium, and high-grade gold. Not just gold, but gold running over 30 grams a ton. So we sat back and looked at it. That came from 200 tons poured into concentrates. So scientifically, it's possible that came from a blip. I don't know what the scientific term for it is, but I call it a blip. So we then ran 40 assays from locations around the mill and the mine. And it wasn't just taking one grab sample. The field team would take 8 rocks from a given area, crush them, blend them together to make it as representative as possible. We took it from the feed, and we took it from the tailings, and we took it from the diabase. And if you've seen the press release, you know that the second round of assays, every one was a hit. We're running around 30 grams of gold per ton, in addition to palladium, platinum, rhodium, and osmium. Let's just take the osmium and put it to the side for a bit. Only 1,000 kilograms of osmium have been produced since 2019 globally, so I'm not going to put a lot of money into that. But platinum, palladium, rhodium, and high-grade gold, those are things that make the world go round, and they're included in the critical minerals list. So what did we do? We immediately shut down the mill. Our tailings were more valuable than other people's ore. So there's no point running even the low-grade material, because we'd be putting all the money into the garbage can, difficult to recover. Second thing we did was engage third-party experts to help us figure out what we had, what the ore characteristics are, and what kind of machine do we need to bolt on to the existing mill to be able to process both the gold and the silver and those new elements that we found. We are going to keep 100% of the existing mill. We're not scrapping it. All of the money that's sunk into it is good money. The science team is figuring out A, what process we need, and B, how big does that box need to be to bolt onto our existing mill? And that's what the science people are figuring out now. It's a great challenge to have. Some people have called me up and said, wow, what a problem. I don't see it as a problem. Here's a thought exercise for you. If we were running 20 ounces of silver per ton, at $20 an ounce, that means our ore was economically worth $400 gross per ton. Look at the high-grade gold we have found, the palladium, the platinum, the rhodium, and add that to the silver, you get a completely different number for the gross economic value per ton. So right now, the science people are figuring it out. It's funny, a large part of our shareholder base are mining people. So they've been calling me with solutions, which I pass on to the mining team. And then they get back to me with, well, that's a good one. No, that's not going to work. I think we're close to having a solution we can share with the public. But as of today, I do not have a firm answer for you. And that's where we are in Arizona.
Are you ready for questions?
I'd like to talk a bit about Idaho, and then we'll do questions, if you don't mind, Anna.
Yeah, just call me back when you're ready. I just wanted to make sure.
Thank you. You'll remember that in Idaho, we have the Washington mine. We bought it in December of 2020. There's several historical mines on the property. The most prominent is the Washington mine. We announced that we were going to hire a contract miner to safety up the adit, bring it up to current standards. And to do that, we used timber from our own mine site, which is fascinating because we own the timber rights. So we used our own timber to safety up the adit. Then we've hired the contract miner to go inside, clean away minor break-ins, and get to the mineralized zone. They're almost there. The historical numbers on the Washington mine are 120,000 tons, running between 39 and 90 ounces of silver per ton. So those are historical numbers, not ours. So the usual 43-101 caveats and cautions apply. We've press released that we plan to take a bulk sample of between 1,500 and 3,000 tons. Run that down to a mill that's about 3 hours away, custom mill it, and then pick up a check after they're done. Our CapEx for such an exercise is relatively low. Our OpEx is relatively low. And what's nice is once we're delivering ore to the mill, we don't have to wait for it to be processed. The contract miner can start harvesting new ore while that ore is at the mill. So I figure we'll be able to turn this 8 or 9 times a year with whatever cash that your math shows we'll be able to do. And that's where we are in Idaho. So Anna, I realize some of that is vague, but I will answer questions as best as possible.
Okay, let's see what we've got in terms of questions. Okay. Yolanda wants to know, how much was the order for the bars, and can you go over the terms of it?
Sure. It was 50 kilograms of doré. It had to grade, I think, at least 90% silver, which is fairly common. And it was FOB when the order was picked up and the weigh bill was delivered to the purchaser. Those were the only key terms. And spot price, based out of London for the price of the silver.
Great. And Neil Ward wants to know, when do you think you will have a calculation for the newfound palladium, platinum, gold, etc.?
Unless we put out a 43-101 report, we won't be able to put out projections. For this project, as you know, we've been against 43-101s. The cult of the consultancy, as Chris Ecclestone likes to call them. We can't see paying people millions and millions of dollars to take 3 years to tell us what we already know. So our reporting will probably be after the fact. This is what we harvested. This is what we processed. This is what we sold it for. It won't be proactive reporting before the fact.
And Don Jefferson wants you to talk a little bit more about a timeline on the multiple properties that you have going on, and where are you now, and when will you start seeing production?
Okay, let's do Washington first because that's easier. The contract miner works 7 days on, 7 days off. I don't know if the team goes home or they go to work on another project, but we get them, I think, from a Tuesday to a Tuesday. They are inside the mine now. They're not quite yet at the mineralized face, but they are past the cave-in. So that timeline is soon, or imminent, as I'd like to say.
Okay. Any more?
Sorry, Anna. Down in Arizona, it's as soon as the science team gets back to us with firm answers. So this is third-party metallurgists who are friends to the company, camp at the University of Montana, and engineers helping us figure out how to take this new thing and bolt it onto our existing mill. The science to do the extraction exists. We don't need new technologies. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We just have to figure out how to bolt the existing wheel onto our chassis, if you will.
Okay. Anything else regarding that?
It was a surprise to all of us. The first question I asked when I was told about the palladium and the rest of it in the silver vein. How come we didn't know that? Well, the answer is, in that part of the world, there is no palladium. So nobody assays for it. So nobody finds it. So nobody assays for it. It appears that at the majors around us who have massive copper porphyries, there's a line in their financial statements for other minerals. But when you're reporting $5 billion a year of revenue from copper, you're not going to report $50 million a year from palladium. So we suspect that the majors around us are producing minor amounts of palladium and selling it through some broker and getting it out to Switzerland as best as the rumor mill tells us.
Okay. Elijah Houston wants you to talk about your financing and what is bundled in the units specifically.
Thank you. The financing is a $600,000 financing with each unit at 20 cents Canadian. Each unit is a common share and a full purchase warrant, good for 24 months at 30 cents. The management team had a very, what I call healthy conflict over whether to put an accelerator on the warrants. And after about a half hour of conversation, we elected not to. Let the warrant run, the value is in the duration. But it was discussed, so those are the terms of the units. So far, the financing has been well received.
And Ian Burns wants to know what you need to raise to stay above water.
I don't know what our CapEx is yet for that thing we're going to bolt onto the existing mill, because I don't know what that thing is yet. I have some ideas in my head, but until I have real science on it, I can't tell you. Our burn is quite low, so I don't have that number at hand, but relative to other companies, our burn is relatively low. See, I'm a lawyer. The CFO likes to draft documents. So many of the company's documents get drafted by the CFO and by me. So we're not spending a lot of money on lawyers and outside fees.
That's great. Harry and Kerr wants to know, how is the raise going?
It's going well. Now, we announced it Friday. To be accurate, when we put out the news about the palladium and the platinum and the high-grade gold, we had shareholders calling the company, offering us money. You're going to need more. If you do a financing, please include me. Those people have put, I call that the hands up stage of a financing. Hands up is going very well. The next stage of a financing for me is receiving subscription agreements, and that's going fairly well as well. The third and most important stage is show me the money. Put the cash into the bank account. So far, I think we've received 3 sets of funds, possibly 4. So I would say the financing is going well for something that was announced only on Friday.
Great. And Jamie Wong wants to know, do you need to invest any money into roads and other infrastructure?
Up in Idaho, we got a permit to widen the road. We've already spent that money. So yes, but we already did. At the mill site, no, it's in good shape. Possibly at the Buckeye Mine. And if we did, we'd get a permit from the Tonto National Forest rather than BLM. It's an issue we're constantly monitoring because the field team drives back and forth to the mine site several times a week.
Donna Cohen wants to know, is there any recurring revenue at this point?
No, there is not. We started to do that, and then we couldn't pour the doré bar because of the palladium, which smelts out at 3,300 degrees Fahrenheit. So we put the mill on hold till we figure this out.
Aaron Pope wants you to talk a little bit about your team, who is on staff, and talk about their background and who might you be outsourcing.
Well, I don't know if I can talk about outsourcing other than the University of Montana. We have made that disclosure before. University of Montana has a world-class facility called CAMP, the Center for Advanced Mineral Processing, and they are helping us out figuring out what our ore in the silver vein actually is. On the team, we have Birks Bovaird as chair. Birks is also the chair at Energy Fuels. And Birks has been wonderful at imposing controls, disciplining the board, being that fulcrum between the shareholders, management, and the board. I've been doing this for 30 some years, and I still don't know what a chair does, but whatever it is, Birks is one of the best at it. I'm a director, VP Capital Markets. As I mentioned, I'm a lawyer in good standing. I work with Birks and with Brian, the CFO, to ensure compliance and good governance. Brian, the CFO, is just fantastic, one of the best chief financial officers I've ever worked with because he's a value add. He doesn't just put numbers together and say, here. He helps with all the filings. He explains what the numbers mean. When it comes time for an audit, he has everything put together for the auditor in advance, which means more of a quality audit. John Carter is our CEO. John is a process guru. This is his world. Now, if we were out doing exploration up in the Arctic, John wouldn't be the guy. But this is a process facility. John is the guy. This is his world. Down in Arizona, we have Ron Murphy and his team. Ron is a highly experienced on-the-ground School of Hard Knocks miner who's running the field team, and it's been wonderful having them there. Last up is Eric Baylog, who is based in Toronto and is helping us with capital markets.
Fantastic. Good team. All right. Mariana Quintero wants to know, since osmium is not the focus, but will it be investigated to see if revenue can come from it?
Osmium is worth $52,000 an ounce, $1,800 a gram. Problem is only 1,000 kilograms have been mined since 2019. So if we can get it, good. But if the cost to build the box that we need to get it exceeds likely revenue, then no.
Tom Hansen wants to know, roughly, when will the independent third-party ISO accredited lab release the results on the Buckeye mine ore?
Well, the lab wouldn't. We would through press releases. And we've done that twice, once on September 26th and once in the second week of October. Sorry, Anna, sampling is an ongoing thing. Like, you never take a sample and stop, especially in a situation like this. You can't have too much data. So sampling continues. We may not disclose all the sampling because if it's not material, because it's not different, we may not disclose it. But sampling goes on every day.
And a follow-up question from Tom. Do you intend to reach out to local mines or miners and ask them if they have seen PGMs in their ores?
You know, a lot more gets done behind the scenes sometimes than up front. You know, I'm sure that there are American diplomats speaking to Russian diplomats, while everybody up front, they're beating the war drums. The people in the back, no doubt, are figuring out a way to get us out of this mess. So yeah, we have good friends everywhere, and we're asking questions and trying to figure stuff out. Of course, I can't name names.
Peter, do you have any closing remarks for us?
Anna, I told you to learn how to drive a backhoe the first time I was here. You could come up to Idaho and help us.
I know. I should know how to do that here in Oklahoma.
Exactly. It's not that hard. It's like a bobcat. Second, we're being as transparent as possible. There are many companies who would come on here and, you know, kind of lay it on thick about what they have and what they're going to do. We're very honest in what we know. We don't know right now. I don't know what this box is going to look like. And when we do know, we will announce it loudly and proudly.
Wonderful. Well, please come back, give us some updates, and hopefully you can announce some great news next time we see you.
Looking forward to it.
All right, Peter, get back to your grandkids. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks all.
Have a great day. Okay, everyone, stay with us. We're going to come right back with our next presenter.